How's it going, everybody? And welcome to Liberty Bowl. So, is this the end? Are we seeing the collapse of the American system, the collapse of the American dollar? What is going on here? What's the next 5 to 10 years going to look like? I don't really know, but either way, I'm going to go ahead and break down what is going on right now. And hopefully this isn't a black pill moment. This is a really essentially a point in American history that is, of course, going to go down in American history as more than likely a revolutionary moment if certain events end up panning out. I'm, of course, hoping such events don't end up panning out in a sort of bad way, but at this point, it is looking like such faith and trust in our old systems are coming to a screeching halt. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into a bit of the details as to what's going on. Essentially, as Cheech and Chong would say, man, things are tough all over right now. Things are bad. In Ukraine, and it's about to be bad in Taiwan. With Russia, China. We're essentially on the brink of World War III with old Biden in office. Things are basically looking pretty grim right now. So we're gonna go ahead and discuss this a little bit. But before we get into that, you probably want to get into some of this too. All right, let's do this.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to foot.
We're losing our democracy!
More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Wake up!
Before we get into that, let's get into this. All right, so essentially what we're seeing here is the total collapse of the American system, right? The total economic collapse and as well as the total government collapse, right? So essentially we're watching a slow moving train wreck of the world's biggest superpower in complete free fall right now, right? So what's happening with the American dollar is essentially with everything going on with SVB and stuff like that, and these other large banks starting to collapse because of the fact that things have become hyperinflated, and these investors and stuff need to go ahead and pull their money out of these banks, which went ahead and invested their money in things like government bonds, which of course lose value as interest rates go up, which is essentially the way that you would be fighting inflation, and which is what the Fed has been doing over the last year or so, right? And so essentially these banks are starting to collapse because there was a run on the banks, right? So what is happening right now with the federal government is the federal government is essentially bailing out the investors now, right? So originally back, in I believe it was the 2008 collapse, they bailed out the banks themselves, right? So the banks don't fail, right? The whole too big to fail shit going on, right? And essentially that was the first step. So now they're saying, oh, we're doing essentially the same thing again, but we're backing the investors. We're not bailing out the banks, right? We're bailing out the investors. Okay, well, that essentially eliminates the whole risk loss potential in money. Sometimes you have to take a loss. You can't get bailed out. If I were to make an investment in the stock market and that stock goes down, do I still get the same money back? No, that's not the way that it works. You took some losses. That's the way that it works, right? Or you could keep your money in it, let it ride out, and hopefully the bank will come back. But it's, clearly don't. That's not the case here, right? We're in a total free fall collapse, right? So essentially, money used to be backed by something like gold or a commodity, right? A precious commodity, something that is limited, has scarcity, and is basically something that can be held in reserve. And money was essentially the fiat, which basically represented that reserved commodity, right? that has not been the system for a quite a long time now, right? So we got into this whole like type of Keynesian type thing to basically try and pull us out of the Great Depression and all this and that, where basically the Fed will start printing out money. Basically, we did everything that our founding fathers warned against, which was the centralizing the banking system, and the Fed just started printing out money, doing things like quantitative easing to try and ease the burdens on the market, and essentially they were supposed to keep it at bay. Essentially they're supposed to keep it at around like 2% year over year. Well, clearly we're so far beyond that it's entering total collapse right now. All right. So once we got off the gold standard, then essentially we were on this whole promise to pay type system where we were doing fractional banking, right? Where basically banks needed to only keep about 10% of what they actually were supposed to have on reserve, right? They could loan out the rest, or they could use it for investments. They could basically use it to turn a profit, right? And essentially that's how banks make money. So whenever they don't have the money and the people come asking for their money, that's when banks end up having to sell all their assets and things like that, and that's when they go into total collapse, which is what's going on here, right? So essentially money, once it was no longer backed by gold, became backed by debt. Right. So what is debt? Debt is essentially promises to pay. So essentially our, money was backed by promises. Right now, this, these bank bailouts and stuff like that, essentially it made it to where those promises are essentially worth shit. The promises are essentially not even worth the monopoly money that they're printed on anymore. And that is why we are seeing the total economic collapse of America in a little 5-minute nutshell real quick. All right. So now for the governmental collapse part, that has to do with Donald Trump and faith in the government. So we are seeing essentially the weaponization of the judicial system and the Department of Justice, things like the FBI, to go after a political opponent. And that's about it. And that is essentially what is destroying faith in government. So Donald Trump is scheduled to be perp walked, supposedly on Tuesday over the Stormy Daniels incident, where essentially, so what happened was, there was a sex scandal, whatever, blah blah blah, with Stormy Daniels. He paid her off with hush money. So essentially that hush money came from election funds, apparently, and it was written off as legal fees, right? I mean, I would technically kind of argue that's pretty much some legal fees right there. But essentially, that's all it is, right? Paying off Stormy Daniels some hush money to basically shut up so, I could run for president, right? What fucking, shit. Joe Biden doesn't even pay people hush money. He just says, mainstream media, go shut them up, blah, 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 shit. At least he fucking paid the bitch off, right? So that's what this is about. They are essentially going to perp walk their political enemy. Basically, Donald Trump is the front runner in the GOP nomination for the presidential nomination for 2024, right? So essentially he is in line to run again in 2024, and clearly he is looking pretty good right now. Joe Biden is clearly, way past his prime. He can't even speak proper English at this point, and Donald Trump is out there speaking the rhetoric that America wants to hear right now. He's basically talking about, disbanding these secretive government, entities. Basically, he's talking, all that Trump rhetoric, right? And he's looking really good. And so the Democrats and the Department of Justice, the FBI, basically all these people have become his enemy because he's essentially threatening to expose them. He's essentially threatening to JFK them, and basically there is no room for 3-letter entities in a free, government system, blah, 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 all that type of shit. But, so essentially Donald Trump has become government public enemy number one, and it is clearly showing, right? They are basically weaponizing the power of the government, which is our servants. They're civil servants to the American people. They're not supposed to have this type of power, and essentially they are weaponizing the government and our justice system to go after their political opponents, right? That is essentially the definition and the pure hallmark calling card of a tyrannical authoritarian government that is on the verge of dictatorship, right? I mean, we just saw Xi Jinping in China. He just announced, well, guess what? There's no term limits on presidency no more. So, yep, I'm going to be president for life now. He essentially, announced himself fucking king of China, right? That's what we're kind of seeing happening here in America. Basically, they're weaponizing the American system of government to go after their political opponents. That is very, very bad. Very, very bad, right? That is essentially what is going to result in the second American Revolution. Something is going to come of this. Something is going to change because, yeah, we can't have that. This is essentially, and it's not just about Trump. They would take out anybody that threatened their power, which essentially shows that we know that the power of the people no longer has power over government. It has basically gotten to the point where the roles have reversed, basically. And a lot of the people in America really do kind of believe this too. A lot of people really believe that we work for the fucking government, that we're, the government is our rulers. A lot of people think that the government is there to rule over us. That is not the case. The government is there to essentially enshrine and ensure our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is all. Our essential natural rights. They are here to preserve those, not to guarantee results, not to guarantee equality of outcome, anything like that, but to guarantee equality of opportunity to everybody in the land of the free. That is the only essential job of government. And essentially they are stepping over their bounds. They're coming to the point where the American people are going to start looking for ways for dissolution of government, which we more than have the right to do because we are the people of America. We are not the people of the federal government of the United States. All right. So that's about all I got for you guys. That's my whole rant on the collapse of the American system. All right. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video out. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, I really just did kind of start ranting and saw where it went, and it's going pretty good. So, all right. I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, share this video. Fuck off.